We'll get started. So, welcome everybody, wherever you are in the world, to this 15th invited talk of this wonderful meeting. And today, this afternoon, we have, or morning or evening, we have an invited speaker, Jarita Holbrook, who is at the University of Edinburgh in Scotland right now. And Jarita is a Marie Curie Fellow at the University of Edinburgh. They are an expert in African indigenous astronomy, as well as an award-winning filmmaker for the wonderful movie Black Suns, which I definitely recommend you to check out. ASTROMOVES is a project that is leading, and it builds on research on astrophysics of the Astronomy and Society group at the University of the Western Cape, and the eager collaboration at UCLA. Jarita, I look forward to your talk. The floor is yours.
Thank you. All right, so we'll just jump right in. So here's the full title of the talk. And sorry, I had to quickly convert this from a keynote to a PowerPoint, so some of my text is not fitting correctly. I hope it doesn't bother you. So it's a qualitative study of the career decisions of astrophysicists, relocation, life-work balance, and reputations. So as you know, because we're all somehow related to astronomy, this is what our career path can look like. And then there's those magic steps that you go directly from like postdoc to permanent faculty or to senior faculty. But this is a sort of a gloss over. If somebody is not muted, so I am going to pause and I'm going to try to mute wherever that dinging is coming from. Maybe you can help me, Katrine, to find out
Yes.
who's still live to turn off
Right.
their microphones.
Okay. I'll check.
Okay.
I'll do
Great.
that. You continue and I'll, yeah.
Right. And so the other thing is that when you're looking at this diagram, you can also jump off this path. So you can, leave astrophysics altogether. Why are you misbehaving? There we go. So, hold on one second. Right. Here's the foci of ASTROMOVES. We particularly wanted to look at real gender diversity, underrepresented astrophysicists, and other intersectional identities, such as if they're married or differently abled, etc. There has to be a European connection because it's funded by the European Union. In order to be part of the study, you have to have made 2 or more career relocations or position changes and since your PhD, and that's approximately, people that we're interviewing are about 8 years past their PhD. So we're testing if the underrepresented move more and if families move less. So where are the places that are career enhancers, or what are career enhancers, as well as which places are avoided and why they are avoided. Those are the reputation parts of it, and what support is needed to advance their careers. Right. So as an insider outsider, I'm trained as an astrophysicist. I know a lot about astrophysicists. I know a lot of astrophysicists. Partly is because of my training, but also because I've been running the oral history project for the American Astronomical Society. Oh, by the way, look at the diagram here on the right and tell me which way is up in the chat. Or which way is north. I won't say which way is up. Which way is north in the chat. I know certain locations, and I know the importance of locations when you're talking about places that people have moved to in terms of access to telescopes and if there are famous groups or famous individuals that are staying there. I know the lay of the land in terms of departmental prestige, but it's not about what I know. It's also about who I'm interviewing, their perception of all these things. And finally, I know a lot of the unpleasant characters and those who are sexual harassers, etc. Because oftentimes they don't have to tell me the names of people. They'll just say at such and such place. And I'm like, oh, okay, I know who you're talking about. So I don't know if people put in the chat, but which way is north in this diagram? The center, we have Draco, and at the top is Hercules. But the key is down here at the bottom, you have Ursa Minor, and so you know that north is actually down here, right? So, in order to think through some of these issues, I looked at the IAU Gruber Fellowship, which has been mentioned a couple of times during this conference. And what it is, it's not so much a fellowship as a supplement. It's 50,000 euros. I think they split it. It's either one person or people. Two people, they'll get 25 euros each. And what it is, it's a supplement for someone who has to relocate countries from where they are to the next place of their postdoc, and so it helps with those relocations and reestablishing costs. Okay, in order to get this Gruber Fellowship, you actually already have to have a postdoc in your hand that is going to be an international move for you. So anyone can apply, blah blah blah, but there's a preference to give it to those from low income countries. So I looked at the fellows, 21 fellows, not including the fellows that were given out, the fellowships that were given out this year. There are 9 women and 12 men, but we have no other gender information. But it is possible to trace their pre and post career moves via online sources. So here's some plots that I generated. We have nationality. The scale is you either have none, 1 is light blue, and 2 is dark blue. So the European country that has 2 is, I think, the Netherlands. And then you have India has 2, Colombia, and Chile. Then I started doing the mapping. And it's 21 individuals, and this is kind of a mess. But let's see if I can show you some highlights of it. So this is their moves from where they got their PhD to down here, this area at the bottom in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean near Antarctica is where I put their move into the Gruber Fellowship. So the Gruber actually, as I said, it's not the postdoc, but they were given this pot of money. And then the second map here on the right is leaving with the Gruber money. Where did they go? What were their career moves after? What you can't see is you can't see some of these overlapping lines. So it's not the best way to do this mapping, but you start to get an idea of where people came from and where they went and how many moves they made before they got the Gruber, and then where they went with their Gruber. So again, talk about insider knowledge. You may have noticed that they're mainly optical and radio astronomy hotspots, but English speaking, which is interesting. Also, some of the fellows return home afterwards, so they went to the Gruber for their postdoc, and then they were eventually through one step or the next step, they went back home, right? And so their goal obviously was to get a job in their own country in the end. And of course, I mentioned the understanding of the prestige of the institutions. So here are the countries that are popular with the Gruber Fellows, and the darker blue is 10, has had 10, and then the lightest blue has had 1. So the popularity contest is the United Kingdom, Australia, and the United States are the ones who are dominating. Interestingly, China is not too badly represented, and Spain and France. Okay. So looking at all that, there's not enough information. So in comes my project AstroMoves in order to really understand the decision-making process of astrophysicists who have at some point circulated through Europe. And the only face-to-face interview that I've done is with this person, and you can guess why. That's Ramil Dave. And this is the visible information that you can get about Ramil. He was my first interview. He has his CV online. His affiliations are on articles in case I couldn't get the full CV. And here's an example of, in the middle, it's just the header for one of his articles where you can see the title, and then underneath are the various people and the institution. So you can trace where he's gone if you don't have the CV. Then there's the rumor mill information. Most astronomers are aware of the astronomy rumor mill. People outside of astronomy find this fascinating. And when I give presentations, I have to say this talk is not about the rumor mill. There's actually articles you can go read about that. It's not my research, but they find it very fascinating. So Ramil is mentioned in the rumor mill in 2000, 2002, 2012, and 2016. So those were all like career moves for him. And here's the one from 2012, where he went from University of Arizona to University of Western Cape in South Africa. The other thing about the rumor mill is sometimes the job ads themselves are available, but because they're not necessarily archived on the AAS job job register. So that's useful information too. But thus far in my analysis, I haven't determined if it's really important to see those job advertisements, other than to know what field my participants are in. So with the AstroMoves, there's a different way of mapping. The maps that I showed you before were done on Excel using Bing map feature within the Excel program. And I hired, whenever possible, I try to keep high school students off the street. So I hired some high school students and they decided to map it using Google. And so that industrious student was Sam Duffy here in Edinburgh. And this is the map of Ramil's movements. So with each one of these interviews, I assigned them a Hawaiian pseudonym, because if you saw me give the talk at the AAS in Hawaii, I said that from now on, all my research, when I'm doing research on astronomers, they're given Hawaiian names. That's just my act of resistance and support for what's going on in Hawaii. So I interviewed, give him a Hawaiian name. So for the purposes of this talk, we'll call him Hawaii. He provides an intersectional identity. He's a gender cis male, Indian American and white, middle class, married with 2 children. Through the interviews, I was also able to get his temporary and visiting positions, but they're not mapped. Of course, lots of details of the role of his career decision making, including the role of his wife and his children's education, places that they turned down or didn't even apply and why, places that he liked or disliked, with details of the qualities and the reputations. He's willing to talk about the reputations of various departments. So, an additional method of data collection, other than the recordings from the interviews, is that I told them to have a piece of paper in front of them and to write down sensitive information, including their intersectional identities. And so he wrote down all of that, and then he wrote down the name of one department that he knew that was horrible at supporting their women PhD students. They often left before they got PhDs. But he didn't want to write the fact that he's been approached many times from various other departments to apply for positions. So he didn't want to share that information with the AstroMoves program. So here's an excerpt from his interview talking about the decision to move from one position to another position. And I know that there's people who are visually impaired, so I'll do my best to paraphrase this. So the question is this transition. It was one department was more formal, and he mentions hierarchical and competitive, and he didn't like it there as much. And so his previous experience had been in an astronomy department that was very congenial, where students, postdocs, and faculty interacted a lot together, and it really felt like a community. And then when he left the sort of competitive place, before he left, he had visited the new place, and he knew people there, and was already on friendly terms with them. So he knew that he would have more of the community that he liked in this third location. Okay. And so that's kind of the deep information that I was getting in these interviews. And he's not the only one who talked about the type of community, astronomy community in a department that was important to him, right? There were other people who said the same sorts of things, whether they liked this type or that type. So it's very interesting. So AstroMoves itself was started during the pandemic, and I was extremely reluctant to do online interviews, mainly because it's important for me to actually read body language while people are talking so I can understand another level of information, because I've gotten really good at reading their body language. But I had to bite the bullet and start doing interviews, and it's been going very slowly. Originally, I would have been in Argentina in a room asking people to interview, and just like one interview after another. So I would get something like 10 interviews in a week at each conference. So 5 conferences and I would have been done. Because I said for the Marie Curie proposal that I would do 50 interviews, but in reality, I'm probably only going to be able to get 30 done. And thus far, I've only completed 7. The positive thing is on Zoom, it actually auto transcribes it, so I don't have to pay for transcription. I just have to correct the auto transcription. So those 7 interviews, 3 females, 4 males, great gender diversity. 3 cis, 2 bisexual, 1 homosexual, 1 asexual. So I'm actually have to fill in the like normal guys at some point. So I've got great gender diversity. But preliminary results, or actually how are the interviews changing my thinking about how people are making career moves. 3 issues that I'm going to talk about today is the unemployment of women, the impact of COVID-19, and financial factors. So unemployment, here's a quote from Kamea. The end of my most recent research fellowship, then 3 months of unemployment, and it was pretty harrowing. I've never been unemployed before. So all 3 of the women that have been interviewed for AstroMoves have been unemployed since PhD at some point. 2 of them as a result of COVID-19, but the other not. One of them thinks it was a gender issue, and that if she had been a male, she doesn't think that it would have turned out that way. The decision was all of a sudden made to drop, right? So what are the implications of this? And that's women have more job insecurity and need more financial safety nets to keep them in astrophysics. However, 3 interviews, we have small numbers. So we'll have to see if this unemployment issue continues as I do more interviews with women. COVID-19, another quote from Kamea. I've actually got to the interview stage for a couple of jobs, and they were just unceremoniously called off. Months later, they called me back and said, we'd like to resume the interview process with you. Then we have Maka'ala. I'm not happy about how this has affected my life and my ability to be with people that I care about in terms of my productivity. It has had no effect, or even a positive effect, because all the things like travel and hanging out with friends, or just whatever that I would do, I don't have anymore. So I have fewer distractions. However, the combination of teaching and doing research was having a negative impact on Maka'ala. I won't read this one, but he said that, when you're just working on your research, you can take a break and say, that's it for the day. But when you have these teaching duties, you can't take a break. So it was becoming too much of it, and he was finding it very, very mentally tiring. Next, financial factors. So before obtaining permanent positions, most people did not make decisions of where to move based on salary or cost of living. But they did note when they were making a really good salary at one place, and they had to take a salary cut when they went to the next place. 3 of the males had purchased homes in the place where they thought they would remain, even though later they moved. And none of the females had purchased homes. So in this sample that I've done so far, that's an interesting result, and we'll see if this holds true. So there's a time dimension to all of this research. It's retrospective. Um, and when I'm doing the mapping of where they've gone, you capture where it is, but there's no arrows for the direction that they went. So I've been trying to learn R so that I can do my own mapping. It's been at least 20 years since I learned a new computer language, so you can imagine how that's going. Um, and then the
Jarita?
question is, yes, 2 minutes.
Apologies. Yes, right. Thank you.
Great. Um, is the actual year of these moves important? If I'm trying to keep people anonymous, then I think that I have to not include the years. And will the interviews be the only engagement? So it's therefore I'm fixing at a time and a place in their careers, or is it going to be open to contact me via email? And already people are contacting me with additional information after their interviews. So I think it's going to be sort of an exchange going back and forth. And here's the last one that's really important. Do I publicly archive interviews as they are transcribed and anonymized, or do I do it after all the articles that I want to write are finished? And of course, as an EU support at Marie Curie, you have to make your data public as possible. So the IA Gruber, I have to get back to that and actually ask those people to be interviewed for AstroMove so that I can add layers to my understanding of where they went in their decision making. So wrapping up, here's what's publicly available: your CV, bios, ADS affiliation, rumor mill. New data that I'm creating with this project is interviews, written notes, emails, and then things that I've already processed so far: the maps, making maps, transcription of interviews. So there's still to come future articles and a documentary film, because I do things like that. So thank you so much. Contact me if you want to be interviewed for this project. My digits are there on the left. And I need actually white men. I mean, when does that ever happen, right? I spent so much time focused on diversity that I need my normal sample. I need differing abilities. I need more females, and I need Asians in my sample. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Jarita. Very, very interesting project. Yeah, and good luck with the continuation. And so, if I understand correctly, you are looking for more interviewees. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay, great, great. Thank you. Have a look at the question. I saw that Susanna Deustua had already one question. How were the interviewees selected?
Yes. So clearly with the gender diversity that I had, I went to the Sigma group. There's a public group, and before I even turned in the application, I asked a bunch of people if they were willing to be interviewed. So when I turned in my application, I said, there's 14 people who've claimed to be gender diverse who have already agreed to be interviewed for this project. Okay. So that was the first piece. And then after that, it's convenience, right? So if I know people who are intersectional, then I've asked them. And most of them have said yes. I haven't scheduled any new interviews in like a week. I did an interview last week. It's been very, very slow. But I have 5 people who said yes that I just haven't gotten back to.
Yeah, okay.
And so also, I'm in Edinburgh. I can throw a rock and hit like 20 white men astronomers. So, when I get to the end of the project, I'll just like, okay, you people in Edinburgh, please sign up and let me interview you.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. There's another question from Anna Hicaldo. With COVID-19, she writes, I would expect that the situation is special for the people that are looking for jobs this year, because we know that as administrative processes have slowed down. So it would be interesting to compare these results to post-pandemic ones. What do you think?
It would be, but this is a race. I only have 2 years of funding, right? So you have to think modular, right? So these 2 years, I'm just laying the foundation, and then we'll see what happens after that, right?
Yeah. Thank you. There's another one. No, so this is from another session that I see. So I'm looking for in the chat now.
There is one more from, it's a comment by Susana Deustua. It's for Jarita.
Yes, indeed. Yes. Yes, for Jarita. So
yes, go ahead.
Yeah, Susanna, right? I know you started with Gruber Fellowships, but she meant for additional individuals for the selection. But maybe you partially answered that question already?
No, so I chose Gruber while I was waiting. I was hoping that the pandemic wouldn't turn out to be so long. And so I wanted to learn how to do those mappings and what could I learn before I actually started doing interviews. And there was a data set that they all had some connection to Europe that was available, right? So I just used it just to start putting together sort of a data pipeline. But at the same time, people find the Gruber information quite interesting. So I need to finish it, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm going to have the Gruber people be a separate part of AstroMoves or if they're going to be within AstroMoves.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I
Yeah,
definitely want to interview as many of them as I can. And that's probably another determinant. I probably will not be able to interview all of them, so they'll have to actually be embedded with the other AstroMove interviews.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Jarita from Susanna. I was also thinking, because with the connection to Europe, you also have the Marie Curie Fellows like yourself, right?
Yes.
You are yourself a Marie Curie Fellow, so that's another pool of people, as in astrophysics, the Marie Curie Fellows that
Yeah, and one of the people I've interviewed was also a Marie Curie.
Okay,
so,
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what are your goals towards, you want diversity, and of course with the interviews you've done already, you have that diversity. With the people you have in the pipeline, do you also have the desired diversity already?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. So there's actually more black astronomers, who've gone through Europe than you would think. So I have a few of them lined up, and then I have a couple of the disabled astronomers lined up. So I'm getting some of the diversity. What's been really hard is to get the population that have cognitive diversity, like they just have learning disabilities like dyslexia or other kind of learning disabilities, because they're not really forthcoming with their issues. But I know a few, and I've asked them to snowball, like basically give the information to other people who they know have these cognitive learning disabilities. Because
Indeed,
I think that they're a quite interesting subgroup as well. And
absolutely.
Of course, there's a lot of stigma attached to that disability. I think that in some way, I mean, there's stigma attached to disability in astrophysics anyway, because everyone has two hands, most people have two legs, very few are in wheelchairs, and very few are blind or have hearing aids. I think it's more common to see hearing aids, but very few have been deaf from birth. And don't quote me for that, because I don't keep track of all those statistics, but going to conferences, you kind of note these things. But cognitive disabilities, I think that there's even more stigma attached to that. So they tend to try to hide it, even though they're obviously quite successful, right?
Yeah.
Because they have PhDs in astrophysics, right?
Yeah, clearly, yes. Yeah. So there's a lot of appreciation for your work that I see in the chat. So several people are saying thank you for your work. So
Hi,
it's
everybody.
Really thank you for this great project, and I look forward to the outcome. There's another question that just came. Are you using social media to look for people to interview, or is there a web page where there's an eligibility list? Because as far as Anaeli understood, who posed the question, it's focused on the EU, so there should be a connection with the EU. So
right. So there isn't a website that's because I haven't built it yet, right? So
Mhm.
there will be a
Okay.
website, it just hasn't happened yet. I chose not to use social media because actually the young people, like I'm like on social media and I'm like hip to all the young astronomers doing all this kind of, we're like always in dialogue, but they're too young for the study. They're not 8 years past their PhD.
Yeah,
And so
yeah.
I'm actually not using social media. I'm using Snowball, which is Snowball method means I
Yes.
ask people and people tell people, and then here at the conference hopefully a few people will say yes, I want to be interviewed.
Hmm.
And then so it's very very snowball method as opposed
Yeah.
to this blanket, because I only I only have to do 50. If you do social media you'll get hundreds of people, right?
Yes,
And that's
for
too many.
sure. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
but
How
I'm
long?
at time, so
Yes,
should we switch
yes,
to
we
it?
should
I'm like
round
I'm
off.
done,
Yes,
right? I'm done.
we
Thanks so
should.
much, and thanks for inviting me. Always wonderful to do work with you, Beatrice, and good to see you, Katrien. So I'll turn off
Yes,
my screen.
No,
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so
thank
much.
you. Thank you
All the
both.
best for.
Yes. Thank you.